I think when I was 12 was when I got baptized, And when they dip you in that water, man.
Total immersion.
Right, total immersion. And then when I came out from that water, I said, wait a minute, everything is the same. I thought that once I got dumped in the water, I would come out, maybe I would know Christ or something like that, or I would see something. But that was, I guess, part of my own kind of cynicism in a way, And then you see things happen.
Well, where does that come from? If you have this strongly believing great-grandmother, and she's the religious person and a big influence, obviously, where does that cynicism? Why are you a doubter?
Well, I don't know. My grandmother, my great-grandmother was the storyteller. Okay. She was in South Carolina. My grandmother who lived with us
was the believer.
The super believer, who was also head of the Ladies' Aid. They had a class struggle in the church then between the Ladies' Aid and the Flower Committee. Those two groups trying to contend with each other, I don't know, except my father was always, his behavior puzzled me because he never went to church. See, so I would figure, well, wait a minute, he ain't going to church. So what, does God give him some kind of special pass to get in? Because he'd be there at home reading detective books, detective stories, reading the newspaper. But his claim was that he was a Methodist. That's why he didn't go to the Baptist church.
Why didn't he go to the Methodist church?
Well, that's what I wanted to know. See, but then, it all passed. But this is the interesting thing. Once my mother died, he joined the church, the Baptist church, and became an ardent Baptist, or an ardent churchgoer anyway, and became a deacon and all that. There was a Deacon Jones, actually. It was my father. But until he died, he just died in April. He went to church from the time my mother died till he got out. But I guess that was because maybe he then began to, like Bill Cosby said, this is an old man trying to get in heaven. So he's trying to, work that. But that always puzzled me. Not puzzled me, but it always left a kind of a serious kind of concern. Suppose there is no God and there is no heaven, and here my people spend all this time worshiping. As a matter of fact, I even have a play called The Election Machine Warehouse, because my grandfather, that was his job. He was a Republican. He was a big-time Republican, and that's the job they gave him, night watchman in the election machine factory. And my sister and I used to jump on top of those machines and run up and down. It was a whole block long. All the election machines in the county were in there. We would run up and down on the top of those machines. And I would wonder, I wrote this play where the radio, which radio was what was happening then. You listen to the radio. When the radio starts talking to them, and I remember this guy who used to come out, "Good evening, my good colored friends. I'm from heavenly rest." And, he'd be selling coffins, right? Or not coffins, whatever you call it, plots.
Yeah.
So I had this guy, the same guy on the radio saying, "Good evening, my good colored friends. We're going to sell you these coffins because, there is no God for the colored. And no matter how much you worship God, you're not going to see God, but we have a coffin that the devil cannot get in. So that you can lay in this coffin for thousands of years and the devil will not be able to get you." And my grandmother's sitting there listening to that, or at least that's what I have in the play, that it's just, my grandmother's sitting there listening to this, and she runs out into the election machine. Everett, talking to my grandfather. The radio is talking to me. The radio is saying we can't get it happen. But that's the kind of stuff I would make up in my mind, sitting there listening to the radio, listening to this, watching my grandmother and grandfather in that context. Very, very funny, very special kind of context.
When you started going there, I thought you were going to talk about a poem, "When We'll Worship Jesus," in which you question Christianity, efficacy of Christianity to lead black people toward salvation, freedom, what have you.
I figured if we believe, like I was saying last night about, and Jimmy Bowen's and Du Bois' thing about, this so-called primitive Christianity. If we believe so strong, how come we got to be the slaves? That was my, even as a little boy. So wait a minute, if we that close to God and we that good, Yeah, see, because I see these other people ain't that good. I see stuff going on in newspapers. And how come we got to be the slaves? You know? And that is what that poem is asking. So I said, you know, I worship Jesus when Jesus do something. You know? I mean, at least box with black people's enemies. And it's always been that. But then I saw that Dr. King, on the other hand, could turn that black Christian mythology, or if you will, or that belief system, and utilize that as the kind of energizing force for a whole movement, because that's what that was. I mean, you use, you know, the Christianity in that way, you know. But then black leaders have mostly throughout the years been ministers. I mean, even Malcolm X is a minister.
Right.
But I think that's because we were never allowed to develop any kind of institutional advance secularly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you had to find if you had leadership impulses,
right,
they had to come out over there.
Yeah, it had to come out in the church.